Thank you for joining us for a special edition of At Your Service. Hello, I am Susan Love, Coordinator of School Counseling grades 9 through 12. Today, my co-host and I, Ryan Vogelin, Director of Student Services, will be facilitating a panel discussion about the film, The Upstanders. The Upstanders explores all sides of cyberbullying, from bullying to victim, bystanders, and family members. It shows the importance of empathy and resilience to transforming attitudes and action. It shows that everyone is needed to eradicate cyberbullying and gives bystanders the confidence and tools to become the upstanders and change the narrative. I am going to let our guests introduce themselves, so welcome.
Thank you, Ms. Love. My name is Marquise Duarte. I'm a Director of School Performance for Anne Arundel County Public Schools. I had the fortune of being a high school principal, but I also had experience at the elementary and middle school level. So I've had an opportunity to work with students and see the impact that bullying and cyberbullying has and how it plays out at different levels of education and the impact it has on students. And so I really appreciate the opportunity to be here, and I will turn it over to my next presenter.
Hi everyone, my name's Tristan Fenner and I'm a 12th grader at Northeast High School. I'm the president of my SAD chapter, which stands for Students Against Destructive Decisions, and we advocate mental health and substance abuse.
And hi, my name is Michelle Fenner. I'm a mom of 3 Anne Arundel County Public School scholars. I'm also the health and physical education teacher at Northeast Middle School and also the SGA and SAD advisors there as well.
All right, thank you, panel members. So I'm going to ask the first question. After you watched the film The Upstanders, what was one big takeaway from the film?
I think my biggest takeaway was that bullying doesn't affect one person. It doesn't affect 2 people. It doesn't affect 3 people. It affects the entire community, everybody's families, anybody that comes in contact with any of the students. They really are affected.
And I had 2 takeaways, but I think they're somewhat interrelated. I think the first one was just understanding how widespread bullying has become, and really the 24/7, 365 cycle that of bullying that can take place now that we have the ability to bully virtually, or like we said, in social media platforms. The other takeaway I got was not just the prevalence and the intensity of it because of how it's amplified with social media, as I talked about, in technology, but also how I think technology has made people a little bit less empathetic. And I think they talk about in the documentary about just not having that feedback loop where I can say something via social media and not have to deal with the consequences of your own reaction and see the emotional toll it takes on you. So really just the prevalence, how easy it is to access and say things about people, and how I think technology has unfortunately exacerbated people's willingness to bully at times. So that's kind of the 2 takeaways I had. Thank you for that opportunity to talk to that question.
I would have to 100% agree. I think my 2 takeaways are very similar. I believe that bullying happens online because it's instant. No longer do we have to sleep on our feelings and see if we still feel the same way tomorrow. We don't have to wait to see someone face to face. We can have a feeling and instantly react on it, and it gives the person behind the screen more power. I also think that children do not seem to put themselves in other people's shoes as much anymore. So the screens are keeping kids detached, and they don't see the hurt that they're causing to other people when they say these mean things.
If you wake up and feel scared to walk out the door, I would just hope that you look at yourself and know that you are not alone in that experience, that you are enough.
If someone is holding something over you, if you are afraid, if you feel weak, you don't want to admit to people around you, this is something that I'm going through, because you feel embarrassed or you're ashamed, there's nothing in the world that matters more than you being okay.
So for me, such an important part of this conversation is really looking at how we can love ourselves and how we can start there to then have that greater impact in the world and shift how we treat each other.
For the first time in history, based on watching this documentary, 25-year-olds and under are the loneliest cohort of people. How is this possible when we are more connected than ever?
You know, you always hear the saying, like, you can't love somebody else unless you love yourself. And nowadays, people rely on others so much for self-validation because, I mean, you can snap a picture of your outfit in the morning and send it to a friend and be like, hey, does this look right? You don't have to go out. You don't have to be confident in yourself. You just have to rely on other people being confident in you and other people liking you. You have no self-reliance, no self-love, really, because you get it all from other people instantly.
Good point. Very kind of shallow, like they talked about the word shallow in the term in the movie. Thank you.
And Michelle, how do we help, our kids make more meaningful connections? Tristan just kind of laid out how sometimes it's just that instant gratification with the connection, but how do we allow kids to make more meaningful, deeper connections?
I think we need to educate every single day. This can't be a one-time lesson in homeroom or an occasional thing. I think we need to educate and use those teachable moments every single day. Stop hiding, I think. Have those awkward conversations or those uncomfortable conversations. Let's explore our feelings. But we also need to have consequences when things don't go perfect.
Marquise, did you have any takeaways? I know that, how can we help make kids make those connections? And as a former principal, some thoughts, just because we see our kids so attached to their phones.
Yeah, I think the one thought I would have is, to your point, maybe just put the phones down and learn how to interact and communicate the old school way that a lot of us did growing up, where, that face-to-face interaction, so much of our communication is nonverbal. And there's a level of sincerity that you can see when I'm communicating, when I'm making eye contact, that unfortunately you don't see in social media. And you don't always see virtual via Skype or via, virtual meetings. So I would just say, just try to get back to a place where we're doing a little bit more of the face-to-face communication, absent any technology, that allows us, again, to have that genuine feel of sincerity when we're close to somebody, when we're talking to somebody, when we can see their smile, we can see their eyes, we can see all those nonverbal gestures that show the connection that we have with one another. So that would kind of be one thing that we might want to consider.
We talk about connection, and we're leading to, what can a bystander do to become an upstander? And so what are your thoughts? I have, Tristan, as a student, what were your thoughts around that?
I think that just having open communication with the adults in the building and feeling like you're heard, you have to keep pushing it. You can mention it, just keep talking about it, keep saying that it's an issue, keep the communication open. Don't make it a weird thing to bring up and talk about, and then you'll get answers.
And I can chime in on that, Ms. Love, if you're okay with that. So as I watched the video, and of course a lot of the video was predicated on, trying to get bystanders to move to become more upstanders, I started to think through different things or strategies you can do, and it kind of fell into kind of three different actions you can take, or I think one could take, any of these actions in isolation or in a combination. And I think one of the things you can do is you can confront those who are, those are the ones who are doing the bullying. You can confront them. Another alternative would be to console those who are being bullied, so that you can kind of put your arm around them and let them know it's okay and let them know you're there to support. The third one I was going to say is, sticking with the C theme from confront to console, would be to connect. So if you see someone that's being bullied, there's a likelihood that person probably has some social isolation. And they're probably not in the biggest of social circles. So why not take an opportunity to connect them and bring them in with your social circle? Because I think with bullies, they oftentimes prey on students who are isolated. And I hate to say it this way, but there is some truth that there are strength in numbers. And those students who are connected to a broader social circle, typically, not always, don't, I think, have to deal with the amount and levels of bullying that those students who are a little bit more socially isolated. So again, if you just confront, console, and connect, or any of those three, I think that would be a good step in terms of moving from a bystander to more of an upstander.
Thank you very much.
Awesome. There, I love those. I love the 3 C's. That's great. And
yep.
As we move kind of to the next question, on a similar vein, as we watch the Upstanders film, the filmmakers really wanted the audience to be able to take away some tips or ideas on how to help. What were some tips in the film that kind of stood out to you, Tristan? As a student, was there anything that stood out to you that tips that other kids could use as they tackle cyberbullying?
I think a big one is just don't give up, talk to the adults, and find those people that are there for you and focus on them, because they are there, and it's easy to get caught up in all the chaos and what people are telling you 24/7 now with the phones. You just have to focus on who's there for you, because there is somebody, there are people, and that's what people fail to see.
Yeah, excellent point. Use those adults who are there to support you, because if they don't know what's happening, it's harder for them to help, whether it's your own family, the people at school. Definitely reach out to them. Michelle, did you want to add anything to that? Just some tips that maybe you took away from the film?
I sort of looked more at a larger scale help. Schools, I think that schools need to help. We need to have these kind campaigns like they talked about at the end of the video. We need to teach David's Law. I'm a health teacher and I didn't even know about David's Law. And don't underestimate the power that you have to help as an individual, as a student, whether you're in 1st grade or 12th grade, you can help.
Yeah, absolutely. The more you talk about it, the more we're educated, the better we are to handle it, prepared to deal with it. So that's a great point. Marquise, do you want to add anything to that?
Just briefly, I agree with what Tristan and Michelle said. The other piece would be just acknowledging and celebrating those students who are upstanders, and making and sharing what that concept means to students and celebrating what it means, right? So it's okay to be an upstander. So we have bullies, but we also have upstanders. And these are what upstanders do in terms of helping students who are being bullied. And so create it as a concept that students understand just as well as they understand as bullying, but it's a counter to that. And then celebrate and recognize when students demonstrate any of the qualities that we may associate with being an upstander.
I think that's an awesome idea, because too many times we may focus on the bullying behavior, but if we focus on those people who are standing up to the bullies, not the people that are not just the victims, but the people that are actually around and can stand up and say, this is not right. I think reinforcing that allows more people to feel the courage to do that. So excellent point.
Yeah, I think that's fantastic. And I'm going to transition a little bit, because we talk about social emotional learning. And I think those are really important things to be a social awareness. And we talk about CEFL standards in education, which students don't really know what CEFL standards are, but they know what good decision making is. They know what social awareness means. So what are some building blocks that you see around students, what are some of the things they could do so they could have a solid social emotional wellness or a positive health?
Yeah, I think there's a few things. Some of the basic elements like sleep, proper nutrition, exercise. Two other things I think are important are honestly just some down alone time, off the devices, away from the technology, some time just for yourself to be introspective, to reflect, a sense of mindfulness, you might say. And the last piece I think is just finding something that you do that you're really good at and that you enjoy doing, because it brings you the fulfillment of being enjoyed, but being good at something really does build your confidence. And with that confidence and self-esteem, I think helps your overall emotional well-being. So again, sleep, nutrition, exercise, so some mindfulness, time for yourself to kind of be introspective, reflect. And lastly, I think just find things that you enjoy doing and that you're really good at to kind of build that esteem. But that's kind of where I would land on that one.
No, and I think those are excellent suggestions, especially because you're doing growth mindset and strength based. So those are all positive, because everybody has their strengths, and we're focused and to focus on those.
And Tristan, do you want to add anything to that, just from the student perspective of how, what are some things that you or maybe some of your friends or fellow students engage in terms of that positive well-being or positive social emotional feelings getting through the day, because it's tough being a teenager, right?
Yeah, I agree with everything he said. I did want to add just forcing yourself to have that downtime, putting away your phone. Don't always make yourself accessible to everybody. It's okay to put yourself first. It's okay to say, I'm going to put my phone down tonight and I'm going to be with my family, or I'm going to, watch one of my favorite shows or do something that I love to do. And I don't have to answer them every second. They're going to be okay if I don't answer them.
I have a 6th grade daughter, and I'm trying to teach her that as she learns how to navigate the world of technology, that you don't have to respond to everything. It's okay. You can, and then balance. Balance is a really important thing. Michelle, did you want to add anything to that question? Being a health teacher, I'm sure you know a lot of things about this.
I see a lot of kids that are down on themselves all the time, and I can't do anything right, or I don't look good, or I don't have friends. And instead of really focusing on that negative, but you can draw, but you're a great listener, but you do great in school. So really kind of changing their whole thought process, and it's not going to happen overnight. So we people that are around these types of people, not just children, have to continually say, hey, but you're a great artist. Hey, but you're a great listener. Hey, you're really responsible. And they have to hear that over and over.
Try a little harder to talk to them, but more importantly, you try a little harder to listen to them. And you always start the sentence with your child when it's hard for them to talk to you, is tell your child what you love about them.
When I get vulnerable with them and when I'm honest with them, then I find that they're more willing to talk to me. When I look like this person who just, I always have it together and I always make great choices, I think that creates some unhealthy false image that somehow we have it all together or that we have all the answers. We don't.
Marquise mentioned mindfulness, but there's a lot of research around mindfulness just in terms of relaxation, and gratitude is another thing that there's research based, that if you take time each day to think about things that you're grateful for or write them down, that actually research shows that helps kind of your own well-being and your own just helps you calm down. And it's a really great strategy when it comes around promoting well-being. So I did want to add that also. For our parents that are out there watching us today, what are some tips that they should think about if their kid is being bullied in general, but specifically being bullied online? Just from your own perspectives, what are some what should parents do? Because that's a tough thing for them to encounter. Why don't we? You want to start, Marquise? You want to start that one?
Sure, absolutely. So this is a question I'm still struggling with in my mind as well, because I don't think there's an easy answer. But I definitely think that bullying of any sort, whether it's online or face to face, obviously it takes an emotional toll on the students. So one of the things you want to do as a parent is to make sure that your child feels loved and supported. So you're building that emotional toll. Yeah, you're building them back up. Because obviously the bullying is wearing them down in some regards. Obviously, maybe just try to find a way to kind of maybe restrict or limit their device use. Look at the privacy settings. Are they able to kind of, are they able to restrict certain people from commenting on their pages or placing certain posts? So really just try to be there to love and support your child. Let them know that, you have to create a counter narrative to the things that bullies are saying. So the bullies are saying X, as a parent, you need to be saying Y as a counterbalance to make sure your child doesn't internalize what the bullies are saying about him or her. And then maybe just look at those privacy settings. How do we limit and really exclude certain people who may be giving you a hard time from making these posts? If applicable, maybe you can bring it to the school's attention. Obviously, if there's a school-related incident that you can connect it to, you can bring it to the school's attention. But it's certainly a tough one, and I apologize if that's not a good enough answer, but that's a tough one.
No, I think you gave some great points there. Tristan, you want to add to that from a student perspective? Just for other students, maybe other peers that what they can do?
I have some things that I think kids would from their parents. Is it okay if I share that?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, so I feel like a lot of the times we think that we're going to be punished because some of the stuff that is going on online it's rumors or lies, or maybe it's even true and it's getting twisted. And if we go out to our parents and tell them, hey, this is what kids are saying about me, are the parents going to believe the kid and say, oh, well, yeah, that is a lie? Or, you know what, it doesn't matter if that's a lie or not. I'm on your side. I'm going to be there for you. And even just hearing experiences from our parents, because a lot of the times we think our parents are perfect and they never had to go through any of this. And that's not the case, because bullying's been around forever. It looks different now, but it's been here forever.
Excellent point. Yeah, that's great. Michelle, do you want to add to that?
So I kind of get the double-edged sword, because I see it as a parent of 3. You can't escape it as a parent. You really can't. And then I see it as a teacher, because my students do come to me and they do let me know. So now I need to do something in a different way. And then exactly like she said, if I'm contacting a parent, how are they going to react? So my advice is believe your child, talk to your child, have that conversation face to face, make sure your child is okay first and foremost. Make sure that you are telling them that you love them, you support them, you believe them, you are there for them, you have their back. Then probably contact the school counselor, and maybe even an outside counselor for your child. Contacting a counselor for your child doesn't mean that there is something wrong with your child. It means that you are giving them the support that they need. Counselors are not bad. They're not bad people. And I am a firm believer that everybody should have a counselor at some point in their life. But also teach your child the social media etiquette. Teach them what's right and what's wrong. Teach them how to handle if something does happen, cyberbullying wise on technology, that they need to screenshot it, delete it, and block the person. Those are the 3 steps that we teach in school as well.
Thank you. And, it kind of leads in, I know, so Michelle, you did, talk a little bit about how can I teach my child to be safe online? So we've heard a few strategies. And then I know that Dr. Duarte, you also mentioned a couple of strategies, but we talked about, privacy settings, communication. Tristan, there's some other things from a student standpoint that students know, but maybe they really need to think about really keeping themselves safe, or there are some other things or strategies that parents might not be aware of, or even some students might not be aware of, because technology is constantly changing. There are new apps and there's new things they can do with it, and they are much quicker and more savvy than most adults, to be honest with you.
I just think a big one is there's so many different apps coming out now where what you do, it says, oh, it'll go away. Like Snapchat's been around forever. Oh, it'll go away. It doesn't go away. It never goes away. It'll tell me when somebody screenshots. There's ways. There's always ways. Value yourself enough to know that you don't have to give in to anybody else. You can do what you want to do in your heart, and keep things private. You don't have to post everything, because that just gives people a gateway into your life. People that you wouldn't hang out with, you wouldn't bring into your family, but they know everything that's going on because they're on your social media and you're posting everything you're doing. That just gives them the ammunition that they need to come after you. Not saying that they will, but keep things private. It's a lot safer.
Dr. Duarte, was there anything you would like to add as well?
No, I think everything that has been remarked already is pretty much spot on. The one thing I tell my daughter is don't say, text, do anything online that you don't want me to see or know about, because chances are I'm going to find out about it. Just so that's kind of a little thing I tell her all the time, just as a reminder of, if you wouldn't do it in front of me or around me, then you probably shouldn't be doing it on social media as well.
Exactly. That's a really good point. It's a really good point. So I appreciate it. I do want to mention, though, Anne Arundel County really wants to focus on providing students with those pro-social skills so that they're able to stand up for themselves and have a healthy, and safe environment in the schoolhouse, or even when they're online with their friends. I will say You know, Ryan and I, we talk to students and we talk to staff quite often. And if a family member or a parent is watching today and they have some concerns, so just what Miss Michelle was saying, to reach out to the school counselor or the principal or the administrator. We have reporting forms, you know, so that we can get to the bottom of a particular case. So, you know, we're definitely a partner with the family and the community, and we want to keep all people safe. So I think that's really important to know as well, that there are some resources.
No, that's great, Susan. And I did want to add one more resource that I use that I just discovered. There's an app called Bark where you can actually, if you know, I work with my daughter and my wife we work with our daughter and we tell her it's on her phone, but it allows us to monitor any text messaging or anything that around, if there's any content related to bullying, suicidal comments, drug use, violence, and it sends us an alert as a parent to tell us, and then we can go have a conversation with our child and say, is everything okay? So, you know, but I think it's important that she knows we're not spying on her. We've told her it's there. So it's a understood relationship. Yes, we're giving you the freedom, but we want to monitor to make sure that you're safe. So it does have a subscription fee, but it is a great app that I just discovered. So, all right, well, you know, Susan and I would like to give you all just a huge thank you for sharing your knowledge and your helpful tips on cyberbullying. It's been very insightful. We do want to remind the audience, if you need immediate support or are in crisis or anyone in your family is in crisis, please call the Anne Arundel County Warm Line at 410-768-5522, or you can text HOME to 741-741 for the crisis text line. This has been a special edition of At Your Service. We hope that you're inspired to channel empathy in your day-to-day lives, because whether you know it or not, everyone is going through something. So go to www.theupstanders.com for more resources and tools related to cyberbullying. And if you have any questions related to today's panel, please reach out to us. You can email us at yourservice@aacps.org, and we will be sure to answer your questions and get back to you as soon as possible. But we would like to thank you for joining us in At Your Service.